Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu. The world has taken the words of Allah and turned them upside down. The world has taken divine understandings and turned them upside down. The world cannot abide within truth. It seems through its arrogance to wish to create partners with Allah, partners by way of our own arrogance. It wishes to give us credit for that which we have nothing to do with. It wishes to make us big when we are in fact non-existent. Arrogance is an enormous problem in this world. It's a problem individually, it's a problem nationally, and it's a problem internationally. Arrogance causes confusion. Arrogance causes difficulty. Arrogance causes all sorts of horrid things to happen. Arrogance causes inhumanity between men and men. Arrogance creates differences, and it's within these differences that the true difficulties in this world occur. I am right and you are wrong. My interests need to be protected and yours don't. This kind of arrogance is at the core of all of the world's problems. What happens is, as this arrogance spreads, as this arrogance takes over countries, this arrogance affects individuals greatly. Other people's arrogance puts difficulty in the path of people trying to lead righteous lives. Arrogance creates wars. Arrogance creates civil disobedience. Arrogance creates difficulties within government. It is all based on arrogance. Yet God is without arrogance. God is without differences. God is common to all. There's no my God and your God. There is nothing within him that favors a certain race or religion. There is no place for my religion or your religion within God. There's no place for my way or your way within God. He is beauty, and he's taken on the form of love. When arrogance enters into the equation, love leaves the equation. Arrogance breaks love. Arrogance and love don't coexist. Arrogance insists on ruling. Love doesn't need to rule. Love is its own divine power that is full of compassion and full of justice. And when arrogance comes, compassion and justice leave. God's duty is his justice. God's duty is his compassion. And this is who he is. But man has left the understanding of the divine and has taken on the understanding of the satanic forces. The satanic forces breed differences. And as soon as differences occur, they grow. And they're like a disease. They're like a cancer that disrupts the true flow of things. When cancer enters into a body, the rest of the body can't exist. And when overwhelming arrogance enters into social situations, it begins to control those situations in a way that it is destructive to the entire social institution. What are we to do? What can we accomplish? Well, the Sufis refer to God as reality. Haq is the Arabic word that means reality, and it's one of the names of God. To understand reality, we have to understand the nature of God. And it's through knowing the nature of God that we can understand the nature of reality. However, the world is not part of that reality. The world is illusory. Yet, man takes on this world as if it were real. And it becomes very difficult for man to separate himself from the illusory world that he lives in, the illusory world that all of his senses relate to, and relate to that which is reality. Reality is love. This world is arrogance. Reality is compassion. This world exemplifies differences. Reality is divine light. This world is form, and the existence of form and the conflict of form. Form in the nature of different ideas, different opinions, different forms. And these ideas and opinions become the reality of the institution, the reality of the nation. And when within nations there are strong disagreements as to these forms, civil wars occur, conflicts occur, great tribulations occur, and many, 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 many people are harmed in the midst of all this. How do we find peace? How do we find a place for peace? There are so many misconceptions. It's said fire wanted peace, so he went to water. The man wanted peace, so he went to a tiger. Cat wanted peace, so he went to the fox. Snake wanted peace, so he went to the mongoose. Man doesn't know where to find peace. Man doesn't know what it takes to be peaceful. You cannot go to your enemy to find peace. You cannot go and engage in warfare to find peace. You cannot engage in separation to find peace. Peace is found within the nature of our Lord. Peace is found within compassion. Peace is found within love. Peace is found within justice. And if justice doesn't exist within the circumstances of your worldly surroundings, what are you to do? This has been an eternal question and an eternal conflict. When are you in a state where you have to protect yourself? And when are you in a state where you have to move and move away from the conflict? Is it better to be a martyr in conflict, or is it better to find peace and become a beacon of light? These are eternal questions that man has been trying to answer. And there have been many, many different kinds of answers individually to these problems. Some fought and some did not fight. Some engaged in the difficulty and some withdrew to find a quiet place to be able to commune with Allah, to change the nature of things through that communion. Can we peacefully engage the world through communion with Allah? Can we peacefully engage the world through our meditation with Allah? Is it possible? And will that change the world? I went to Mecca in 1991, and we were given instructions by the Sheikh that if 10 of us would do tawaf, which means circumambulate the Kaaba, in the name of the Sheikh and in the name of peace, the time of destruction would be held back. The time of difficulty would be held back. So there is no question that Allah can and does respond to man's need for peace and to man's prayer for peace. But man's idea of communication with Allah is askew. Man believes he finds Allah through either the growing of hair or the shaving of hair. Man believes that he finds Allah through lighting candles. Man believes that he finds Allah through protecting and fighting on behalf of religion. Man believes that differences of religion and the insistence on those differences will bring peace to the world, when in fact, all of it does the opposite. So man must begin to understand what reality is and the nature of reality. Within the nature of reality, truth, there is unity. Allah does not have any of these differences. And as long as we have these differences, we are not within the scope of that which is real. We fight make-believe battles based on make-believe assumptions, based on hallucinations that we hold as truths. And almost all the truths that man hold are hallucinations. They're made up things. None of us have seen Muhammad. None of us have seen Moses. None of us have seen Jesus. Yet we all have conceptions of who Moses is, of who Jesus is, of who Muhammad is. And we take these artistic conceptions that we've formulated in our minds, and we treat them as reality and bypass the truth of each one of these prophets. There's a story of a man who wanted to meet the Khidr Nabi, the eternal prophet who sometimes comes to earth. Now, the eternal prophet, the Khidr Nabi, is different than the other prophets, because the other prophets are all in the light now. The Khidr Nabi comes and is actually within form at certain times. So this man meditated on the Khidr Nabi and meditated and finally drew a picture of him and put it in his pocket and went in search. And 20 years he searched and searched and searched. Finally, he came on a small town and asked, is anybody in this area known of the Khidr Nabi? And he was told, he's here. As a matter of fact, he's very close to where you're standing. And he took him to the house where he was staying. And he said, if you wait a little while, they'll introduce you to him. So they brought him in and introduced him to him. And when he stood there, the first thing he did was pull out the piece of paper that he had drawn a picture on years ago, looked at it, looked at the Khidr Nabi, didn't look like the picture. And he said, I'm sorry, that's not him. And left and went back in his search. And this is the dilemma that man faces. Man faces the dilemma that he's caught in the illusion of the mind and treats that illusion as if it was real. And when reality is pushed into his face, he can't recognize it. When truth is pushed into his face, he can't recognize it because he has been weaned on illusion. He's been brought up on illusion. He's been fed illusion all his life. And he's eaten it for so long, he's swallowed it for so long that it's stuck deep inside of him. And he believes that these things are true. So we need an entire revamping. Born again is not just a phrase. Born again means erase your life and start over. Do it again. Be a child again. Formulate yourself again. Take on truth as that which you follow and forget illusion. We have been lied to all of our lives, not because people are looking to lie to us, but because people have accepted lies as truth, and they now carry on those lies as truth. We have to begin to understand that, and we have to begin to understand what is and what isn't important to us. We need not to be emotionally attached to this world. We need not to be so intertwined with the day-to-day operations of this world. Sometimes we have to move. Sometimes we have to leave situations because the situations are out of control. Allah works in wondrous ways. It's not for us to predict what these ways are going to be and how these things are going to turn out. And it's often said that men end up with rulers who represent their inner intentions. So even though we think that we have appropriate intentions? How many of the other people near us and around us have intentions that are quite different? And how often are they the ones that are represented in the way things are actually run? Truth has a form, and that form is light. And we have to begin to understand the truth that is light. And that truth cannot be seen by these eyes nor understood by this mind. The intellect can't understand reality. Wisdom understands reality. And to get to wisdom, we have to bypass and go beyond intellect. We have to come to conclusions beyond intellect. Intellect is a function of the mind. The mind is a function of the elements. The elements are creations of Allah. They are not Allah. So where Allah is pure, the elements are impure. Where Allah has no arrogance, the elements have arrogance. Where Allah is divine light, the elements are illusory and are a temporary manifestation. They don't have eternity. God has eternal qualities. So as we deal with the non-eternal, as we deal with the things made up of the elements within the universe, there is conflict, and there is going to continue to be conflict. The world is an unstable place. And if we are looking for stability in the world, it's going to be very, very difficult to find it. Look at the history of man. How long have there been periods of extended peace? How long have there been periods without turmoil and without conflict? How long, if you look at the elemental world, does the world go without a volcano erupting? How long does the world go without a tornado coming, or without a monsoon coming, or without a hurricane coming, or without a tsunami coming, or without a tidal wave coming? How long does it go? That which we see in the elemental world happens within the world of humans. We are made of these elements, and unless we transcend them, we are subject to them, and we act with their arrogance. The earth is arrogant. The earth thinks it can consume everything. It can bury everything. It can hide everything. Everything is created from it. It has that arrogance. Fire consumes everything. It has that arrogance. Water has the arrogance of procreation. Water has arrogance. Air has the influence of the winds that blow through everything and confuse the mind and change the mind and can pull people one direction or another direction. It has that arrogance. All of the elements have various arrogances within them, and we as men live within those sets of arrogance. And unless we understand that we are separate from all of those influences, that those are not us, those are not real, then the following things happen. Money drives our intention. Power drives our intention. And all of these things become real. Somehow, if we lose power, we are diminished. So what we're saying to ourselves is that if we can't control this world, we are diminished. So what do? We do whatever we can to stay in power. We do whatever we can to stay in control. We do whatever we can to try to manipulate form as we want form to be. We can't manipulate form. We can only play with it for a little while. First place, our time is limited, and our ability to have interaction is limited. But because we don't see our own death, we think that we have a certain kind of immortality, and we can continue to move on through all this. And it's important that our ideas become permanent. Even though everything we see disproves that, even though everything we know disproves that, man still thinks that way, especially the people in charge. So it's very, very difficult to move people in charge when their intentions and their reason for doing things is money and power and fame and control. It becomes almost impossible to move them without entering into a conflict that leads to eruptions similar to the kinds of eruptions that we see on this earth, similar to conflagrations, similar to great fires, similar to great burnings, similar to great eruptions. And these things are called wars. These things are called civil wars. And that's where all of these things end up. They end up with people not being able to resolve situations, so they resolve them through violence. And all of a sudden, it becomes a belief system that violence resolves things. And violence can't resolve things. Violence only leads to more violence. So what is it that we are to do? What is it that we as Sufis try to bring into this world? It is our belief system that the only methodology to bring about peace is love. The only way that peace can enter into existence is through love. And you had examples of that in the world every once in a while. You have these nonviolent examples of bringing about peace. Gandhi, in recent history, was one of the greatest examples of bringing about peace through nonviolence. He refused to get involved in the turmoil, and his usual reaction to when things would begin to get out of control and to when violence began to rule is he would lay still and go into a fast. And his power was so strong that the enemies feared his death because they feared what would happen if he died through the fact that they would not adhere to his longing for peace. And he was able to turn things in that way. What can we do individually? Well, we should be reciting the name of God. And we should be reciting the name of God over and over and over. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Whatever the question is, the answer is La ilaha illallah. Whatever the situation is, the solution always is La ilaha illallah. But man doesn't understand what la ilaha illallah means. He doesn't understand what God is. He doesn't understand the nature of God. God doesn't favor anyone. God loves everyone. God is not different than anyone. He's in unison with everyone. And God gives you whatever you ask for in this world. But once you get it, you have to suffer with it. So man asks for all of these things that cause him suffering. He asks for power and then has to suffer with others trying to take his power. He asks for wealth and then he has to suffer with others trying to take his wealth. He asks for all kinds of things and then he has to protect them and he has to take care of them and he suffers because of that. This isn't God's fault. God gives you what you ask for. But you have to understand what it is you ask for. And then, if when judgment enters into your being, you finally realize you've asked for the wrong things and you give them up, that's when progress occurs. That's when you begin to make some headway towards truth. That's when you begin to enter into reality. So what is it that we need to do? We need to understand the concept of reality. We have to understand the qualities of Allah. And the purpose of a sheikh in all of this is to show you what these qualities are in a manifest form, to show you what it's like when these qualities are brought into action within the world. The sheikh stands in the center, steady, without flinching. He stands in the center, steady, without reacting. He stands in the center as a beacon of light that shines for those who want to see. And for those who don't want to see, he is almost not there. They don't notice him. They don't notice his power. They don't notice what he can do. They don't notice his reality. In the same way that people don't notice God, they don't notice truth. It disappears for them. It doesn't exist for them. All that exists is the driving force of their desire that's driven by the mind and driven by illusion. And they want what their intention wants. They want what they have been taught is what they need. And what the world has taught everyone is you need power, you need control, you need wealth. Until man can give up these ideas, situations are going to remain difficult. And the only way that this is going to change, and all of the religions basically have this one concept of the Mahdi, or the Messiah, when a new understanding comes to man, when things have gotten so out of control that Allah sends the Messiah in the midst of men to show them the truth once again, and they can restart that which has gotten totally askew. And that's where we are in the world right now. Things are totally askew. And man is not going to change them. Only God can change them. And how do we get God to change them? By becoming aligned with God. And how do we become aligned with God? By understanding love, by understanding compassion, by understanding kindness, and by understanding truth. Can we love in the face of adversity? Can we love in the face of difficulty? Can we love in the face of all of the horrors that we see being committed in the name of justice in this world? This is the situation that we're in. And we have to find peace within it. And if you can find peace within that, if you can learn to focus on your Creator and focus on reality and focus on truth and find His truth within you, then there is a unity that occurs. And because of that unity, the truth will grow in this world. But there is no other reason that the truth will grow. Only wisdom can know wisdom. Only truth can know truth. Only light can see light. As long as we are outside of the light, we will come up with all kinds of reasoning to fight the system. When we see light, we will see the truth. We flicker in this life for a short time, but the light within us doesn't go out. And we have to focus on the truth of that light, understand the truth of that light, and become at one with that light. May Allah make that light evident for each of us. May Allah make it seen by each of us so that we know that this existence is but a mere figment of our own imagination that lasts for a very short period of time and like a bubble bursts and opens up into the truth of reality, which is deep within us. Yet, we pray in churches made of elements. We believe in God that's elemental. We believe in gold. We believe in women. We believe in power, but we don't believe in love. And we have to change the way we believe so that we believe in love. And we know that the strength of love is the only strength that can really bring peace into the world. May each of us understand that, and may each of us come to the place where love is our overriding, essential essence, and the essence that brings us to the truth. Ameen, Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.